Hello, I want to do another video where I show you similarities between questions that come up year after year. This one is from Physics Paper 1. It's from the particle model topic. It's how to answer questions about pressure, how temperature affects pressure. These questions are really common. I've just found two here. So there's one about a pressure cooker cooking some broccoli. There's one about a contraption on top of a coffee mug turning a wheel. They're both asking very similar things. What I'm going to do, because the two pieces of paper don't fit in the frame, I'm going to go through the first one with you and then show you where the ideas overlap into the second question. So we'll just briefly run through the first one. A pressure cooker is a sealed pot that uses steam to cook food. When the water in the pressure cooker starts to boil, so this water here, the amount of steam in the pressure cooker increases, the temperature of the steam increases above 100. We have to explain why the changes make the pressure in the cooker increase. So why does this increase in temperature, the increase in the amount of steam, cause the pressure to increase? When the steam is produced, it makes its way into this space here. Where you just had water particles, you would then have particles of steam as well inside the pressure cooker. So the number of particles of steam is going to increase first of all. This is important because it's the particles themselves that cause the pressure. So we've introduced the idea of the particles, and then the increase in temperature is going to cause those particles to move faster. Now, because those particles are moving faster, they're going to collide. So they're moving all over the place like this. They're going to collide with the wall of the cooker. And now it's those collisions with the wall of any container, in this case a cooker, that creates the pressure. So it's the collisions with the walls of the container that create the pressure. So the particles will collide with the wall of the cooker. Those collisions are going to become more and more frequent because their particles are moving faster. Because they're moving faster, they're also going to exert more force. The collisions will become more frequent, and the collisions will exert, or we should say each collision will exert more force. So I'm going to leave that there for now, and I'm going to do the same for this question. Then we're going to compare the similarities. So next we've got figure 12 shows a device that uses a mug of hot coffee to turn a wheel. So the hot coffee increases the temperature of the air in the chamber. So this is the chamber here. Explain how the pressure in the chamber increases. So this is a very similar question as before. Before there was a temperature increase, we had to ask how the pressure increased. Explain how the pressure increased. This time, the temperature is increasing. We are being asked how the pressure changes. The first thing we can say is that the particles are going to be moving faster. So those air particles in the chamber, because it's getting warmer in there, we're told that in the question, those particles of air gain more kinetic energy and they move faster. The air particles gain kinetic energy and move faster. Because they're moving faster with more energy, they're going to collide more frequently with the wall of this chamber. They're going to collide with more force. The particles collide more frequently with the chamber wall and with more force. And then the question says, how does the pressure change? It doesn't tell us like it did in the other question, so we have to say it for the last mark. This will increase the pressure. So pressure increases when the particles collide more frequently with the wall with more force. So let's now compare the two answers. So in the first question, this bit is irrelevant to the other question, so I'll ignore that. The increase in temperature will cause the particles to move faster. And here we said the particles gain energy and move faster. Let's use a different pen. And here we also say that the collisions will become more frequent. So the collisions with the wall of the cooker, let's do that in the same pen because it's relevant to that point. And then the similar point is made here. The particles collide more frequently with the chamber wall. And then the last point that's similar, each collision will exert more force with more force. So you can see that the same kind of ideas are relevant to both answers. That's better, isn't it? So these questions about temperature increase or decrease and then pressure increase or decrease, they want you to talk about collisions of particles with the wall of whatever container it is, whether those collisions are more or less frequent, and whether those collisions have more or less force. So I hope that helps.